Welcome to History Back from the Dead. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the road to the Revolution. The Revolutionary War started on April 19, 1775 and ended on September 3rd, 1783. Before that war, America was considered the property of Britain. After that, they were their own country. Now, let's introduce and give a quick summary of the contestants in our show. All right, let's give a warm welcome to John Adams. Step on up.
He was the second president of the United States.
Next, Benjamin Franklin.
He was an important founding father of the United States.
Then we have Roger Sherman.
He's the only person to sign 4 of the great state papers of the United
And last,
States.
but certainly not least, George Washington.
He was the first president.
These fine men will be participating in the competition to win $250,000. Whoever wins the first segment, answers the most amount of questions, will move on to the finals with the winner of the second. They then will go to the final question, and whoever answers the best will get all the money. I'm your host, Frasier Bergman. Let's get started. What were the main reasons that the colonies wanted independence from Britain? I know this one, taxes and freedom. Correct. The colonists wanted to do everything they could to separate and gain their own freedom. The British were also making them pay a lot of taxes. The British added taxes on printed materials imported from Europe. They used this money to repay the debt from the 7-Year War. The Stamp Act helped Americans to open their eyes and see what was happening between the British and Americans. Another important date that showed how much the colonists wanted their freedom was December 16th of 1773, the Boston Tea Party. The colonists dumped 342 chests of tea into the Boston Tea Program. The tea had been imported from the British East India Trading Company. It was a result of no taxation without representation, which is said by James Otis. It means that Americans shouldn't be taxed by the British if they have no say in their government. Of course, some actions have consequences, and the British created the Coercive Act to tame the Massachusetts colonies. That means no Boston Harbor until the tea was paid for, and they couldn't elect their council anymore. Another one of the most important dates, can anyone tell me, when was the Declaration of Independence adopted?
July 4th, 1776. My friend Jefferson wrote that.
Very nice now. The Revolutionary War. Are all contestants ready? What were the 3 main reasons we won the war?
Well, we had a better army, the advantage being on our home territory, and, how could I forget? We had support from the French. We could not have won without them.
Yes, very good, Mr. Washington. Even though we had less soldiers, we still won because of our perfect training regiment. For the next question, we'll have multiple choice. Which one of these answers is correct? Why did the Articles of Confederation fail after the war? A, each state only had 1 vote in Congress. B, Congress did not have the power to control foreign and interstate commerce. C, there was no executive branch to enforce any acts passed by Congress. Or D, all of the above.
I believe that the correct answer is C.
Sorry, but that isn't right. Any other guesses?
I believe that the correct answer is D, all of the above.
Yes, in the end, the Articles of Confederation did not provide a stable government for the colonists. The next section is about proposed constitutional plans. The first plan we'll talk about today is the Virginia State Plan. Can any of you tell me what the 3 distinctive elements of this plan were?
Well, the first initiative of the meeting in which the Virginia plan was proposed, the Philadelphia Convention, was to elect a presiding officer. As many of you know, I am that chosen officer. I knew that the main goal was to create a greater, stronger government. To do this, they focused on 2 elements, national supremacy and the branches of government.
Good job, George Washington. You never cease to impress us. So how did the public act when this plan was being proposed?
Well, this is a question that has a very surprising answer. The public was not informed of the convention until 4 years after it happened.
True. This was because the delegates didn't want the public's opinion to influence the decisions that were made. So what were the similarities and differences between the Virginia Plan and New Jersey Plan?
It was a plan.
Well, they both wanted to change the Articles of Confederation, but in different ways.
Yeah.
The New Jersey plan wanted to have representatives not based on population, but the Virginia plan wanted to have it based on population because they had a larger state.
Good answer. Finally, let's have a plan that ends up ending well. To find a compromise for both actual population and state sovereignty, there were 2 different houses. So the question is, What powers and responsibilities does the upper house have compared to the lower house?
Well, representation was the center of the convention, and each of the two houses would have different powers. The upper house of Senate decided the importance of the state with 2 representatives, regardless of the size of the states. And the lower house of representatives had different numbers of people depending on the population of the state. As you can see, it was a compromise of Virginia and New Jersey. Therefore, a compromise.
Correct. The next topic is about the Constitutional Convention. The first question is, who was called the father of the Constitution? Why was he called that?
Oh no, I don't know.
Of course you got that one wrong.
Let's start with those extra comments, okay? All right, John Adams, go for it.
It was James Madison. He served as America's 4th president and significantly helped in the passing of the Constitution. Then 4 years later, he started to be referred as the father of Constitution.
So what was the Constitutional Convention and what was its purpose? 5, 4, no one knows. No one gets the point. It took place from May 14th to September 17th, 1787 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The point of the occasion was to choose how America was going to be. Quite a biggie. In spite of the fact that it had been authoritatively called to change the existing Articles of Confederation, numerous delegates had much greater plans than just that. So let's close it off with some key constitutional concepts. Okay, what are the 3 branches of our government?
The executive, legislative, and judicial branch.
Ding! We created something called checks and balances with our new government. They limited what people could do within the branches. Why?
To prevent any abuse of power from a branch of government while also trying to prevent another monarchy like King George had. Because of this, every system has power over one another.
Correct. Now for this next question, I will name a branch of government and you will buzz in different examples of checks and balances. Legislative branch, go!
The legislative branch has control over the executive branch by being able to impeach the president, override a veto, and can control their budget.
Now the legislative branch is power of the judicial.
Never mind, I don't know.
Anyone else?
Oh, it's okay, Roger. They can impeach judges and remove them from office. They can also confirm or reject the president's nomination for the Supreme Court.
Correct. Now the executive branch.
They can veto bills passed by the legislative branch, and their power over the judicial branch is that they can nominate judges.
Ding, ding, ding. What is the power that the judicial branch has?
They can declare laws unconstitutional, and their powers over the executive branch is that they can declare executive branch's acts as unconstitutional.
All right, now some of our final questions to determine our winner of this segment. What is proportional representation?
No taxation without representation!
Oh, okay. It was an electoral system where parties gain seats due to the number of votes that they get, Roger. So what were some events that followed this idea?
Alright, so the Stamp and Townsend Act were done because if they weren't represented, they didn't believe they should be taxed for goods.
Yeah. So what was the compromise that was made?
The Senate would have 2 seats not regarding population, and the House of Representatives would be the system based off population for representatives. It was decided that the population would be counted every 10 years.
Correct. So the winner of this first segment that's moving on to the finals is George Washington! Make sure to stay tuned for a commercial break.
What are the best pants? These pants are warm, comfortable, and easy to move in. These pants are what the people in the French and Indian War wore. The French and Indian War began in 1754 and ended in 1763. It gave Great Britain land in America and opened the eyes of many colonists to the wrongdoings of Great Britain. It ultimately started the Revolutionary War. Buy them now. You will not regret.
For segment number 2, we bring in Patrick Henry, Samuel Adams, Alexander Hamilton, and Thomas Jefferson. Let's get started. Let's talk about the Constitutional Convention. Why was it held?
It was held to create something better than the Articles of Confederation.
Good. Now, how about the 3/5 compromise? What was that?
The 3/5 compromise was when southern states wanted slaves to be counted as population, so they decided to count 3/5 of slaves as individuals.
Good, because they wanted more people in the house. Now, the commerce compromise. My question to you, what did the northern states propose to the southern states about taxes, and what was the compromise reached? 10? None of you guys are going to get this. So the northern states wanted to impose tariffs, which are taxes on imports. The southern states compromised because trade was really important to their economy, so they allowed tariffs, but only from foreign countries and not from the inside of the U.S. Does that make sense? Yeah. Slavery was a volatile topic between the states. When writing the Constitution, what did they include about that in there?
It would eventually be abolished, but they would only allow this 20 years after the Constitution was ratified.
Good job. So when did elections in the Electoral College start?
Well, depending on the population of your state, you will have X amount of voters in the Electoral College. There are 435 in all. And the election is not a popularity test. If it was, Hillary Clinton would have won in the 2016 election. The way it works is whoever wins per state gets those votes. And whoever has the most out of 435 wins.
Good one. So let's talk about the signing of the document. How many names can you say that signed it, and how many can you that didn't?
Well, me, of course. Then James Madison, James Wilson, Governor Morris, Alexander Hamilton, Ben Franklin, and other important regional leaders who didn't attend, like Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and John Hancock.
That's right. On September 17th, 1787, men gathered in a private room to sign the U.S. Constitution. What was the first state to ratify the Constitution?
Delaware.
Correct. They needed 9 states to ratify out of 12, and Pennsylvania soon followed after Delaware, then New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut. Massachusetts opposed it completely. Eventually, Massachusetts signed, then Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, then Virginia, and New York. Rhode Island never even signed it. This was because they thought it would give too much power to the central government, and there was no Bill of Rights. Can you explain to me what the Bill of Rights was, and why people felt it was essential to the Constitution?
It's the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. It was important because the American population needed those rights. People in states eventually signed it because they were convinced it could be amended.
Bam! Next up, we'll be talking about the road to ratification. Can I get a drum roll, please? All right. Why did the Federalists believe that the Constitution would make it easier to create a standing army?
Because the president could command it while Congress provided funding through temporary legislation. The Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787 provided checks on any standing army. According to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12, also known as the Army Clause, Congress has the authority to do this.
Wow, you really know your stuff, don't you? All right, thanks for sticking with us for that section. Quite difficult. All right, now to announce our winner from segment 2, give it up for Thomas Jefferson! Samuel Adams, this is how a man acts. All right, now to move on to our final question. Please welcome our finalists from segment 1, George Washington. And our next finalist from segment 2, Thomas Jefferson. Come on out here, Thomas. Up for the men. The rules of this final round. I will give you the final question. You will have 15 seconds to think. Then I will call you one by one to come over to my podium, and you'll whisper into my ear. I will then determine who had the best spoken answer. All right, here's the final question. Why did the Revolutionary War end? 15 seconds. Quite confident, I see. Okay, that's a pretty good answer. All right, you're up. Okay. All right, I find it to be a pretty clear win. So that $250,000 goes to George Washington. Thank you. You're welcome.